Turning our attention now to Eau Claire, Wisconsin, where the area school district there has held a woke training session which stated that parents are not entitled to know their kids' gender identities.
As a parent, well, Empower Wisconsin obtained a copy of a training slide from the district's development session stating this, quote, "Parents are not entitled to know their kids' identities. That knowledge must be earned."
Okay, joining
Wow.
us now to discuss political correspondent Dr. Rachel Winefsky and host of Stacy on the Right and author of Eternally Cancel Proof, Stacy Washington, who is eternally cancel proof. Stacy, your thoughts on what's going on there in Wisconsin?
Well, it's the same thing we're seeing across the country. Everywhere we look, we have teachers making these statements about kids as if the kids are the property of the school district. And the parents have to turn out in droves to put a stop to this. So it's not about parents not wanting their children to know that if a classmate has, two dads or two moms, that classmate is somehow to be shunned. Parents actually teach their kids to be accepting because they want their kids to be accepted. You teach them to be kind because you want people to be kind to them. So it's not that at all. It's all of the other teaching, the pornographic books, the idea that they need to learn about the functions of gay sex or sex at all. These are the things that the parents don't want. And most parents, we're talking about a plurality of parents in both parties and political persuasions, religions, all believing that kids really need to be sheltered, their innocence protected when it comes to sexual content. It's not about orientation, it's about children being innocent and being protected.
Now, the school district superintendent did send a letter to parents defending the school's position, stating this: while we all agree the collaboration between families, students, and the school community is most beneficial, there are situations in which students do not wish to discuss issues with their families. If a child were to share their gender preference or sexual orientation with a staff member and the staff member informed the parent without the child's consent, this potentially violates the privacy rights of the student.
Do we know the ages we're talking about here?
That's a good question.
Because almost by definition, they're going to be under 18 unless you get to a certain. So, Rachel.
But what about the rights of the parent? That's what I think is being left out in all of this.
And that they're the parents.
Yeah. Rachel?
they should be involved.
Right. No, I agree. When I first heard of this topic and this coming up, I looked into the district's policies in regard to administering Tylenol and medicine to students. They require parental consent for issuing Tylenol to their students. They also have, field trip consent forms. So if I have to give consent as a parent to allow my child to receive an over-the-counter medicine for a fever, I feel like I should be consulted as a parent as well if they disclose something that is so life-altering and close to the family, so that as a family we can discuss that and support our child in whatever way we can.
I think the biggest problem that strikes me on this, Rachel, is that the assumption that the teachers know better than the parents. And that's what they're going in with that attitude. Now, I'm married to a teacher, and she's also a parent, and she has taught sex education, but there's a role that the school plays, and it's not being the parent.
Exactly. I think it goes back to something that we saw a lot during COVID too. It's this idea that the collective knows better or the government knows better than a parent. And on instances of this that are so important, something that's very much a hot topic and one that parents should be engaged in. I mean, LGBT youth have a very high suicide rate. As a parent, I would like to know if the teacher has learned something that I personally don't know. The parent is the one that should be guiding their child and the one that should ultimately be making the decisions for their child until they reach maturity.
Yeah. All right. Stand by. Stacy, we'll start with you next time. And we're going to talk about much more coming up.